Welcome back to the Late Show, live from Los Angeles, and this is your host, Young Brando. Once again, we're here to talk watches, some interesting new releases from a variety of brands that include Junghans, Raymond Weil, and some others, if we have time, if we can actually get to it. I'm also looking forward to taking a look at in Eichen, Zurich, which, as always, has a number of timed pieces, a number of interesting um, watches on sale with their premiums abolished approach to auctions. They also have an entire curation around jewelry watches, around gem set pieces. So we might transition to that towards the end of the show. But let me start with a number of pieces that came across my desk, so to speak, earlier today and move from there. Um, this is a piece that I saw on Eric Ku's Instagram, Fumanku. Eric Ku, as you know, is an established dealer and himself a collector, most famously of a number of very interesting, rare Cartier pieces. He used to have a dealer called 10 Past 10. I'm not sure how active it is right now because his focus seems to have been shifted to his collaboration with Justin Grimberg, and I believe Sam Harris now joined the team as well at Loop This, which is an online exclusive auction house that lists a lot of interesting watches on a regular basis and keeps premiums at 10%. I'm sure by now you are sensing a theme. There are a lot of initiatives out there to disrupt the established auction model. You might say it's already been disrupted since the auction houses themselves have uh, extended and expanded their auctions beyond the established 2 seasons. They have something year round. Some of them, in fact, practically act as dealers for independent brands, whether they sell unworn or pre-owned pieces. But all of that being said, Eric Koo just posted this piece on his Instagram, and apparently it is one of his personal pieces, so not going up for sale. All right, you got it. This is Breguet Empire, as sometimes it's called. We talk a lot on this channel about the 70s revival of Breguet that lasted until the late 80s, until Brother Chomet crashed and burned, and things had to start from scratch again with Investcorp coming to rescue. But of course, the Brown family owned Breguet before that, British family, which had acquired it from the grandson of Abraham Louis Breguet towards the end of the 19th century. And they practically owned it until the onset of the quartz crisis, so for about a century. And they basically ran things out of the Paris showroom, so to speak. Of course, we are familiar again with the story around the mid-century, where they secured the contract from Marine Nationale, from Aéronautique Navale, to produce watches according to the Type 20 specifications, those famous flyback chronographs that are coming back again with the recent reinterpretation. But other than that, they had a variety of dress pieces, most of which, and some other watches as well, most of which were offered in a made to order basis, right? And often not serially produced. So these kinds of examples of Breguet watches from the 60s are extremely rare. Exactly, we were talking about auctions, right? Auctions love calling these kinds of pieces extremely rare, possibly unique, right? So that's the story about Breguet before their acquisition in the 70s by Chomet brothers, who jump started things again and serially produced watches. So you could practically walk into, let's say in the 60s, into their Paris showroom and pick and choose certain things, including, of course, the dial, the handsets, the case material, and the case design, so on and so forth. This is the case that uh, Daniel Roth used as a base for his revival pieces. So a lot of the details will be extremely familiar, both what we see on the case and on the dial. But let's go through everything one by one. The Empire case is distinguished by its case band, which you are glimpsing onto here, a case band which is decorated in its entirety by fluting, sometimes also called coin edging, since from the profile the watch looks like a coin. 36 millimeters in white gold with what seems like a slightly domed and mirror polished bezel, an unsigned oversized chronograph, a crown. I don't know what I'm talking about. Um, an oversized unsigned crown, which we will see actually properly belongs to the watch. The lug profiles are again very simple to how Daniel Roth also interpreted them. Extended, elongated, with a teardrop shape at the end, with that slight downturn. And in these examples, of which we are going to see another instance, there's actually no spring bar. The leather band is actually screwed through to the lug, which is a nice, interesting detail here. You have kind of an albino look, as my friend St. Peter put it, on the dial and overall with the watch, since we have white gold case with a silvered dial produced out of a gold blank. Did I turn you on, Neil? And Jake Brooks, hey man, lovely to see you. Um, so as St. Peter told me, this is kind of an albino look since we have the 36 millimeter white gold case, a silver dial produced out of a gold blank, and engine turned by hand with a Claude Paris decoration at the center of the dial and also at the center of the subsidiary dial for the seconds. Roman numerals on a Breguet frosted track, which is really just a fancy and specific way of saying that it is radially grain brushed. And an interesting use of a white gold handset, which is in the pencil style rather than, say, Breguet styled, which is, again, a contemporary way of referring to the hands that have apple shapes towards their end. French call it simply pomme. And every sector of the dial, every segment of the dial is furthermore outlined or framed by a kind of coin edging style or a fluted style of guilloche decoration as well. And you can see that around the center of the second subdial, around the second subdial, around the center of the dial, around the hour track, and even around the minute track as well. So a lot of depth to what is otherwise silver dial, a lot of depth in a watch that is otherwise so monochromatic that my friend St. Peter readily called it albino, and a very elegant piece overall. But what is even more interesting is that these pieces were actually powered by rather legendary movements called Pesseux 260. These are rather rare and honored movements made, produced for slightly over 2 decades, and specifically with observatory competitions in mind. Right, post-war movement produced perhaps right to the precipice of the quartz crisis in about 3,300 examples with the small seconds, as you can see there. And submitted to observatory competitions for chronometric precision in Geneva, Neuchâtel, and beyond. A very old school movement that beats at 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour, and very aesthetically pleasing as well. Here's an example of it that will give you a nice idea. So 2.5 hertz with a nice balance wheel, large balance wheel. I'm sure it would be a delight to see it beating, ideally through a sapphire caseback, but of course, that's not the case, for better or worse, with this Breguet Empire masterpiece from the 1960s. As I was reading about this, another Instagram friend actually forwarded me this, because since I was so obsessed about the previous example that we were looking at, a blog to watch actually covered a similar piece yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a piece that the Southern California based dealer of vintage watches, Oliver and Clark, my apologies, Oliver and Clark, have put up for sale. I don't know if they still have it, but it is a very similar watch to Eric Ku's piece were that we were just looking at. Neo may have already arrived at climax. Um, I think I deserve a tip for that, Neo. And by tip, I really mean money and nothing else. Tim G, nice to see you as well. And Thomas Broadbent, unfortunately, that was not platinum, but white gold. We were just looking at um, Eric Ku's personal example, which is not for sale, for better or worse. But apparently, Oliver and Clark has a yellow gold example of these Breguet Empire pieces, which is possibly still for sale. And you can see that argument for these pieces being quote unquote uh, bespoke, because you can see the bezel looks a little different. Maybe there is like a groove to it along the line, which, again, um, gave me even the impression that it was concave, but no, it is a slightly domed bezel. Again, that's oversized, unsigned crown with that coin-edged knurled grip, and that traditional case design, which was adopted and adapted by Daniel Roth under the patronage of the Chomet brothers, and with François Baudet occupying the CEO position at a later period of time. As you can see here, we have a profile shot, so you get a good glimpse of that fluted case band, elongated and slightly downturned lugs with the teardrop shape at the end, and the screw-through lugs that are an interesting detail used instead of a spring bar. Those are just scratches, even though some of those scratches might look like a stylized B for the family initial. And I love this authenticity of the hallmark that interrupts that case band decoration. As you know, the French hallmarks are quite specific for this era when it comes to precious metal, and they are pretty strict, and sometimes these kinds of oddities might make it even more, might make certain pieces even more covetable, even more desirable. We have the same dial design, again, silvered, produced out of a gold blank, fitted here in a 36 millimeter yellow gold case. Hobnail decoration occupies the center of the dial as well as the center of the subsidiary dial for the seconds. Breguet frosted our track with painted Roman numerals for the hour markers, and Breguet styled hands for the hour and minutes that match the yellow gold tones of the case. And once again, as you can see, every sector, pardon me, of the dial and the subdial is very nicely decorated, which gives the dial a lot of interesting depth and a certain kind of dimensionality. The case, as you saw from the hallmark, seems to be unpolished, used but not abused, well worn, simply. You can see that from also the crispness and legibility of the hallmark on the case back, as well as the initials. Thank you, Leo. Thank you. Um, I would give you some wet wipes if you were here, but I'll take this instead. Truth Over Fact says, I have a 1995 yellow gold example. That's amazing. The crown is different through the decades. Daniel Roth example has a blue cabochon crown. It started without the cabochon, but I think towards the end of the 80s, they fitted them with sapphire cabochon. And mine has a small standard looking crown. Absolutely. There are a lot of variations. And again, as I am obsessing about this 60s masterpiece, maybe I should show a few examples of what I like most from the Daniel Roth era and that would be the asymmetric dial, the moon phase that I really, really appreciate and that I should really get before it's too late, because I know I'm gonna cry about it when I'm priced out of it sooner than later. Yeah, I found two examples of that, so we can kind of look at that too, truth over facts. And thank you for sharing your piece and your example, your experience of Breguet. And I will take a look at some of what I consider to be masterpieces of the 80s with Daniel Roth. And again, this piece too is fitted with that famous Pesseux 260 caliber under that case back, which is decorated with the LB initials. This is a piece, by the way, penned by Sean Lawrenson. at a blog to watch. So do credit to him for detailing it. And he says somewhere that we can't quite know who this is. The great thing about Breguet is also its archives, um, which they actually issue extracts from and in a rather reliable fashion. So you might be able to get the extract for this watch after you possibly buy it from, as it happens, a Southern California dealer with whom I have no relation, no transaction. I don't even know them. So I don't necessarily say anything one way or another. But Oliver and Clark apparently still has this piece there. Anyway, if you get the archival extract from Breguet, it will probably say sold for such and such amount to Monsieur or Madame whoever. So we might be able to figure out at least who bought it, and we might end up getting uh, getting at least the B established from there, and we can start solving the mystery there. But of course, you know, why not imagine that this was one of the Breguets who wanted to get a nice watch from their heritage maker. Why not? Maybe it was Louis Breguet. I know Louis Charles, the aviation pioneer, must have already passed by that time, because I think he passed away in the 50s. But I'm sure the name Louis, or maybe Luis, runs deep in the family as well. But that's just the realm of fantasy, and perhaps it is even better when that inscription retains its mystery. And once again, here is a look at that observatory, quote unquote, observatory grade caliber that powers these Breguet Empire pieces. Eric Ku's personal example in white gold with a kind of monochromatic look, and the example that was for sale at Oliver and Clark in yellow gold and Breguet styled hands. Both were powered by this Pesseux 260 movement, which was produced between the years of 1947 and 1970 in about 3,300 examples, and used by a number of makers for its reliability and precision, since this was the kind of movement that such makers submitted for observatory trials in Geneva, Neuchâtel, and beyond, beating at 2.5 hertz, 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour, hand wound with small seconds and with a gorgeous, slightly oversized balance wheel at that. Yeah, it might be one of those loos. That's what that's what I was speculating. But hey, that would be too good to be true, right? Too good to be true. So here are two examples of some of my favorites from Breguet. Um, this is 3130 in white gold. As you see, truth over facts. Even though this is a relatively early example, it lacks that sapphire cabochon on the crown. But this is a watch that Daniel Roth modeled after the pocket watches that the namesake of the brand produced at a bygone time. I should have one of those pieces in my archive of pictures here. Let me see if I can still find it. Ah, there we go. Glad I have it at hand. This was a design that Daniel Roth cribbed from pocket watch number 5, as you can see. Small seconds, which Daniel Roth on the wristwatch converted into a pointer date with a utilitarian cast. The aperture around 1 and 2 o'clock, which has a moon phase indicator, and at around 10:30 you have a power reserve indicator, and that's what became 3130, one of Daniel Roth's signature designs for Breguet. This is an example in white gold, as you can see, with a variety of different patterns applied to that silvered gold dial, engine turned by hand. Pointer date at 6 o'clock, moon phase indicator between 1 and 2 o'clock, and at around 10:30, the power reserve indicator. Beautiful monochromatic look that is only interrupted by the opening for the moon phase, as well as the heat blued hands fashioned out of stainless steel and styled in the Breguet house aesthetic with apple-shaped ends, or tips rather. These are the correctors for the moon phase and the date, respectively. And as you can see, they sit flush at that decorated case band, fluted. The case design fairly similar to the Empire examples that we were looking at. And even in these early examples, you still see the screw-through lugs, 36 millimeters. closed case back with a self-winding movement. I think the caliber is called 503. No, 502 rather. But I believe they were based on something else, but I can't quite point my. I can't quite remember what it was based on. I want to say some. Um, Actually, I don't want to say anything because I don't like speculating on things that I don't know. But it is a self-winding movement with the rotor placed slightly off center. Um, and it is a movement that beats at 3 hertz, 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour. And again, these are pieces that are relatively reasonably priced, right? I'm not saying 13, $14,000 is not a lot of money for a watch, but you are getting a piece that um, is exemplary of what Truth Over Facts in the chat just called quintessential Breguet. You are getting a piece that belongs to the imprint, the traces that Daniel Roth left at Breguet. And Daniel Roth is, of course, a maker who is finally, seemingly, um, getting his due credit, getting his well-deserved kudos in the market, since he was the person who played the major role, the largest role in the revival of Breguet, and was shortly after that one of the first independent makers to set off on his own path and make some amazing watches that carried his signature on the dial and that are today extremely collectible. And you can see here, this is the cabochon that was added later to some examples. You can once again see the variety of finishes, the diversity of patterns that are engine turned by hand on the silver dial produced out of a gold blank. You can see how the anthropomorphic sturgeon face moon has left its place to one that simply matches the gold tones of the case, along with the added sapphire cabochon. You can see the power reserve now is calibrated up to 50 rather than 45. So this is clearly a later example. And in yellow gold to boot, once again, the heat blued hands fashioned out of stainless steel and in the Breguet house style for hour and minutes. What an incredible watch. Fantastic piece. It is caliber 502, but I I I think 502 is based on something else, but I might be wrong. And in later examples, let me see if I can find it. In later examples, you can see it with an exhibition case back as well, which uh, gives you quite a stunning view of the caliber. There are some that are skeletonized even and freehand engraved on the bridges, which I'm going to show you. There we go. This is the 503 in its naked state, hidden under the case back. And in the 3137, oh, and just to again note, this is a watch that is right around 13,000. 3137, again, an example of the Breguet Classique design. Has an exhibition case back that is at times treated with this incredible amount of detail and handwork. Here is a better picture of another caliber. Off-center oscillating weight, off-center self-winding rotor, and an automatic movement that beats away at 3 hertz, 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour. And you can see all that hand engraved detail, as well as the skeletonized rotor weight that leaves the initial of the brand name in sharp relief. Yeah. So the 3130 and 3137 are my absolute favorites when it comes to the Daniel Roth era of Breguet. Yeah, truth. I don't know. Maybe I skipped over it too quickly. It's a watch called Number Five. Um, Let me open it again. It is a watch called Number Five, which Daniel Roth basically cribbed to render it in wristwatch form. So the primary difference is Breguet's pocket watch, i.e., Number Five, was a small seconds piece, and I think rather ingeniously and in a utilitarian cast, Daniel Roth rendered it as a pointer date at 6 o'clock. So you're absolutely correct. The original conception is something that Breguet himself produced in pocket watch form. That was pocket watch number 5. After which Daniel Roth designed the wristwatch reference 3130. Absolutely, because I have skinny wrists and I always prefer older over newer. So I always prefer old over new and small over large. Make out of that what you will. But yes, it is also a better deal by sheer happenstance. So, and the reason I prefer it, Jack, is once again because I have the sense that they will be even more appreciated once everything else that has the stardust of Daniel Roth is cleaned out of the market by certain collectors. These will be the next frontier. 3130 and 3137 I think will be next to come because it's one of the most pure and distilled examples of that aesthetics and of that watchmaking. um yeah, that's my little take there. We started with Breguet masterpieces from the 60s that used some exemplary renditions of the Empire case, and we looked at later to a later era um, with Daniel Roth at the helm, and the 3130, 3137, which was initially designed with using the pocket watch number 5 as its inspiration, and which remains on the secondary market today a very interesting deal and absolutely um, pure example of Daniel Roth's watchmaking. I think 7784 is right under 40 millimeters, but it is certainly bigger than the 3130. It is noticeably bigger than the 3130. Let's take a look at some of the new releases. I wanted to actually take a look at some pilot chronographs. I don't know if you guys saw, but I also just checked out some of these um, examples of the new Type 20, which, speaking of larger watches, are at an absurd 42 millimeters compared to what I'm wearing now, which is 39, and the original was 38 millimeters, of course. Um, Let me start with what I like. I actually love the case design, which harkens back to those original utilitarian and angular lines with those scalloped lugs, especially. This is the so-called civilian model type, pardon me, type XX, reference 2067. Um, Look, speaking of old versus new, I understand all the marketing spiel that goes around about the high beats, column wheel, vertical clutch movements, and about how amazing the pushers feel and whatever else. I get it. It is a more modern movement. I get it. It's a better movement. I would have honestly rather, um, I would have had rather something that was built on the Lemania CH27. I'm sure they could have modernized that a bit. They're literally sitting on it. Breguet's manufacture today is the old workshops of Nouvelle Lemania. So they could have uh, managed to derive something out of it that would be hand wound, that would be finer, more compact. Put it in a 39 millimeter case, 40 if you must. Um, have it somewhat slimmer than, uh, however uh, thick this one is. I believe they have um, they have preserved it more or less around the same uh, as mine, which is around 14 millimeters. Let's put it like that. I think the 3800, which is the reference I have, might be a little thicker than 14. I think it was probably 14 and a half. Um, I actually love the aesthetic of this particular version. I adore the alpha hands. I love the 15 minutes totalizer for the minutes counter, which is, uh, according to the tradition, divided into 3-minute intervals that are marked in um, extended and luminous hash markers. But I think this is just unreasonably big, and it really stands at an awkward place um, within Breguet's lineup. Um, and they were really insistent that it was a great deal. But I believe what the sales associates meant with that, who were, by the way, lovely people, great people. I had a great conversation with them. But when they said 18,000 is a great deal, clearly what they mean is in contradistinction or in relation to, in comparison to the rest of Breguet's lineup, which, of course, are watches that are usually in precious metal, usually also complicated, and much more expensive. So I'm not sure if it's a good deal at all. Um, it looks like, and it feels on the wrist like any other pilot's chronograph, whereas the older version at 39 millimeters occupied this important niche, which was much more elegant than all pilots' chronographs in the markets, and much more compact than most sports chronographs in the markets. So I don't know how well they will be served by this particular piece, this particular design. Um, this is once again the type XX, reference 2016, the so-called civilian version. I put that up on my Instagram for, and this is the one that I prefer. Again, I like the case size. I don't want to do a whole shtick about the date window. I think I could live with that, if only the watch were a little more, um, if it were conceived a little more compact, if it used perhaps a caliber that's paid perhaps more attention to the legacy of the design rather than leaning on this notion of a high-tech modern movement, which um, I'm sure no one will bat an eye about in the long run. I have also tried on the military version, which I put here on my shorts. And that has a two register look without the R counter, has still a big eye at 3 o'clock, which is a 30-minute totalizer, not 15. Um, I don't understand this toothpaste look for the luminous material on the dial, but I suppose it's supposed to be something tactical, maybe. Um, the bezel harkens back again to the unmarked examples of those initially provided to the aéronautique navale. And it has the old school syringe hands, which I also like, by the way. Mine has syringe hands as well. I guess that's why I kind of was more enamored by the alpha hands, since it's something different. Again, I love the pear-shaped crown on this one. I expect pear-shaped emojis uh, right there, please, Meech, right next to ladies' size. Put some pears. Um, but again, I think it's just too big. It's just too big. I love the new case design, but it just strikes me as too big. So I still prefer my 3800, the Aeronaval, the one that InvestCore had the good sense of bringing back in 1994. And I think it had something to do with how they eventually made the brand profitable again before they handed over the keys around the turn of the millennium to Swatch Group. Yeah, so I like a number of things about the Type 20, which is a design a style, a watch that I care about quite a great deal. Um, I think I could have lived with the date window. I think that's a very minor gripe. But the fact that it is 42 millimeters in diameter and slightly over 14 millimeters in thickness um, puts it in a category where it is one of many, um, and feels like just any other pilot's watch, where there are even budget examples at this point, um, that it seems silly to even consider spending that much um, money. And of course, the main um, budget piece that is more than worth your time to check out is the Avigation Big Eye, which comes in two configurations. One is the original stainless steel with a black dial, big eye minute counter at 3 o'clock, 41 millimeters, 14 and a half in thickness. Um, and it actually has a column wheel flyback movement. Yes, it's not high beat. Yes, it doesn't have the kind of luxurious treatments that you can peek at through the exhibition case back of the new Type 20, but it will also just set you back at about $3,000, and probably much cheaper on the secondary market. And probably it's also the kind of watch that you can get with a discount at the point of retail as well. They also have an example fashioned um, with or executed with a titanium case and with a gradient blue dial that has this grainy texture. That piece has a little bit of premium attached to it. Um, I think it's 3,850. I don't know if it's a limited edition or not, but I do know that it is still quite widely available. And both are just great looking watches that live up to that aesthetic um, in a very legitimate way, even though they are not one to one copies, even though they are clearly not branded Breguet or Errant or Maté Tissot or Dodin or Girard Perregaux or whatever else, which were, of course, the original manufacturers of these watches. Now, we were talking about pilot watches, so let's continue with some new releases from Junghans, the German brand with the Bauhaus aesthetic, which actually has a history of having produced pilots' watches and supplied them to the Bundeswehr in 1950s. Everyone, by the way, in the chat, if you want to jump on to discuss these watches with me, please feel free to join the panel. Robert says that watch is awesome. I completely agree. If I didn't have what I had, I would have certainly gotten one. Um, yeah. And the titanium one is pretty enticing as well. The new Longines Heritage line is awesome too. I agree. I talked about those chronographs too on this channel. I would be happy to bring them up if someone would like. JB says it's a cool look for the Longines Avigation Big Eye. I completely agree. So here are a couple of new releases from Junghans for their Meister Pilot series. Should I say Meister Pilot to be properly American? There, I think there are two chronographs and one time and date model. Let's start with the chronograph. This is, I believe, the unlimited model. There's like a limited production with the blue dial. This is the Meister Pilot chronoscope Desert, which of course owes to that gradient khaki dial. With an interesting riveted detail at the end of the leather straps, including that double end stitching. Which matches this lovely detail at 3 and 9 o'clock, kind of, I guess, forming an artificial horizon since this is a pilot's watch. Continuous running seconds at 3 o'clock, a 30-minute totalizer at 9 o'clock. Nice oversized Arabic numerals for hour markers. Uh, broad sword hands for the hour and minutes, and a red-tipped, centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand. There is an entirely graduated 60 minutes timing bezel, which has a kind of grip that reminds me of the Seamaster um, with those scallops. It is bidirectional, as is usually the case with a lot of these pilots styled chronographs, matching the tones of the dial and achieving the kind of coherence in terms of the color scheme. We have a stainless steel case that is DLC coated in this brown black. The case, by the way, is quite substantive, 43.3 millimeters, and the thickness is 14.4. The piece has an ETA based self-winding chronograph caliber that Junghans calls J884 with a 38-hour power reserve, which is not impressive at all, uh, but it is what it is. And that 38 hours, I believe, is without the chronograph function as well. And as you can see, it also has a buckle that matches the tones of the case. Quite uniform aesthetically, quite impressive. Um, has a kind of oversized presence for my liking, but others might enjoy its substance and potentially its heft as well. Again, 43.3 millimeters in diameter and 14.4 millimeters in thickness. For this standard production model that they call Desert, with that gradient khaki dial and black brown DLC coated stainless steel case, the pricing is 2,590 in euro, including the VAT. And they also have one with a blue dial that's also slightly different. Pardon me. The color is a little more uniform here, and maybe it's kind of darker on the edges, like navy to blue jean, like faded jeans color, with black chronograph registers. Once again, that's artificial horizon established by those red markings at 3 and 9 o'clock. Red tipped hands for the continuous running seconds at 3 o'clock, 30-minute totalizer at 9, and centrally deployed seconds hand, bidirectional bezel with those scalloped grip, with those scallops for supposedly ergonomic grip. And the case is now black DLC coated to fit the larger scheme. Hey, Meech, how are you doing, man? Nice to see you.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you? Were you smoking something?
No, I'll tell you the truth. I just was bunching on some combos. Are you familiar with the snack?
With the snack?
Yeah, so there's a brand called Combos. Basically it's pretzels and they stuff, basically either cheese, peanut butter, uh, mozzarella. Just a
And
gas station
with
snack.
with all due respect, and you are making fun of Mike the Snake and TV dinners, being on a diet like that?
Well, I like to make sure I get my main 4 course meals with my TV dinners. Dude, I no, I like jokes aside. I need to go grocery shopping tomorrow. It's one of those things I just usually put off until I've got nothing left in my house. I hate
I
going to the
think you
grocery
do,
store.
man. you should eat more. You should eat more healthy.
I
I
do.
don't propose anything. I mean, eat whatever you want, but don't eat that kind of trash, man.
Oh, dude. I mean, you have no clue. I eat pretty healthy compared to back in the day when I used to work 12-hour shifts. It was nothing but junk food. And then being during harvest and stuff like that, that's all your diet would consist of is fast food and gas station food.
Oh my god. Well, I'm
But I
glad.
mean,
I'm glad it's getting better. Um, yeah, I'm glad it's getting better. We need you around, Mitch.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
Like you wanna
If Joe Biden steals another election, death by gluttony might not be such a bad thing, honestly.
don't like you just because you're part of the live stream community doesn't mean you have to spend rest of your life on a scooter, on an accessibility scooter. Um, so eat well, stay healthy, please.
My chair hasn't gone to squeaking yet, like some other members of the community. My chair doesn't squeak when I sit down, so that's a good thing.
I don't know what you're talking about. Um, so what do you? I'm sure you came to give me shit about the Junghans watches that I'm talking about. Is that right?
No, no, actually,
No.
I'm not even familiar with these. I mean, what are these? Great value clearance rack specials, or what do we got going on here?
I'm not even sure if they're a great value actually, because as long as you are really invested in the look, which is rather tactical, but in an exaggerated way, and in a way that steps out of their own comfort zone, right? Because Junghans, we know them for the Max Bill, the Bauhaus design, the minimalism. These are rather maximalist for their own aesthetic, um, and they are also quite large. More than 43 millimeters in diameter, almost 14.5 in thickness. So unless you are really invested in the aesthetic, I would say a pass because, again, 2.6K in euro, including the tax. So it should be around 2.5 grand in the US, which is not cheap, especially for something that is just your run of the mill ETA chronograph with 38 hours of power reserve without even using the chronograph function. Um, not much of anything impressive about that. Not sure if it makes a good deal.
Fair enough. Um, I don't know. I was looking at this a little bit here, just at a glance. It
Tell
kind
me.
of reminds me of like the Tag Heuer. What's that one that they came out? It flopped pretty hard. It was supposed to be like the one where the dial was inspired by a racetrack. It was what was it? A Carrera, wasn't it? It was a Carrera chronograph. I don't know. Just looking at that black dial one, that or black or blue jeans one, kind of reminds me of that. Um, just at a glance.
Yeah. Yeah, not sure again. I think it's significant because it is something quite interesting as an addition to their lineup, but not sure if it really provides value. That was, by the way, the blue one is apparently a limited edition of 300 pieces. Um, these are supposedly inspired by pilots' watches that they supplied the Bundeswehr in the 50s. Um, the chronographs, at least. This is a time and date model with a date indicator through a scale like opening, through a fan like opening at 12 o'clock. Again, broadsword hands and small seconds at 6. The loom looks nice, I guess.
Wait, does that loom fade as you get more towards the 6 o'clock? That's kind of stupid. Or am I tripping?
I,
Because it looks brighter at the top and then it kind of fades towards the bottom. No.
I think it must be an optical illusion. I don't think they would do that. Like it cannot be a feature. I kind of get what you mean, but once your eyes adjust, it should look pretty uniform.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm an old man, for God's sakes. Things are harder to see
Me too.
nowadays.
Me too. Guys, by the way, please hit the like button. A small stream like this benefits quite a lot from those clicks, from those upvotes. It makes a huge difference. So if you haven't done so already, please do. And if for whatever reason you stumbled upon the stream and you're interested in watches, subscribe, because I'm here with content every day, more and more. Um, Shorter form content is in the pipeline, especially for the Wilf Hunter series. You can, even though I came up with a specific term, you can thank my good friend Mitch here for the inspiration, because he likens my love for vintage watches for my love for mature partners. So he has inspired me to come up with that series. Check it out. It's an entire playlist. By now, I'm going to drop the link, and feel free to share those links with others, with other watch enthusiasts, and help me expand this community. Community. Um, Let me share. And those are, by the way, a very nice sampling also of the kind of content that I provide on Patreon on a daily basis, which is a market digest with particularly educational and informative angle. So I curate a selection of 3 watches, sometimes a little more, maybe for uh, around a particular thematic, whether it's a historical era, a particular brand or model, and then talk about them in some historical and horological detail, pointing you to certain kinds of deals on the market, which can help you make an educated decision, even if you are not particularly taking advantage of that specific deal. That being said, we were looking at the Meisterpilot. This is the automatic, which has the same navy blue aesthetic as that limited version of the chronograph. And this is priced right under 2K in euro, including the VAT, including tax. I'm assuming it should be around the same price in the US, like 2K, probably again, including the tax. This is the time and dates version, small seconds at 6, and that's fan-like opening under or at 12 o'clock for the dates as well. Same case, 43.3. The thickness, I think, is much less, 12.5 compared to the chronograph. Of course, this is time and dates, so they should be able to shave off some significant amounts, which amounts in this case to 2 full millimeters. Let's look at another chronograph, which is, again, rather oversized for my taste, but offers a different aesthetic. Maybe not as aggressive as the Junghans that we were looking at. This is the Raymond Way. So It's a model they call Freelancer Pop, bicompax, 2-register chronograph with the continuous running seconds at 9 o'clock and a 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock. I think there are two trends that seem to be unrelenting in the watch market. One is the integrated bracelet sports watch category. Everyone has one. Tissot, Christopher Ward, Citizen, every single brand has something going on in that category. Yema, right? And the other trend that seems to be going absolutely nowhere, certainly not away, is the Tiffany blue trend. You get that gray gradient dial here at the center with radially grooved hour track and these sorts of quote-unquote aqua blue chronograph registers that are also matched with the pulsometer scale on the periphery of the dial, the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand, as well as that inscription of tachymeter, which is on the bezel for that scale as an insert. There's a date window at 6 o'clock, which has that quirky font. I will always be completely at a loss why they use so many different fonts for everything on the dial. There's a different font for the dates. There's a different font for the numerals within the chronograph register, different font for the numerals or numbers on the tachymeter. I don't know whose idea that usually is, but yeah, I don't know why they call themselves designers at this point. As Meech takes issue, this is a 5-link bracelet, but we can probably call it Jubilee style, right, Meech?
Oh no, man. I mean, you got to be politically correct nowadays.
Well, I mean, look, with the Tudor, I completely understand because
I don't
they
give a
don't
shit.
they don't
I
they
think
don't want to impinge on their own trademark. I mean, because that's literally their trademark, Jubilee. So, and any other brand can't use it, understandably.
yeah, but I mean, it's I don't know. It's already established. Put it that way. It's like trying to say red is like, I don't know, cherry red. Like, oh, you got to be adamant. It's cherry red, not just red. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I will refrain from making any jokes about that particular color. This is a titanium piece, 43.5 millimeters in terms of the case size. It is mounted on a matching Jubilee style 5-link titanium bracelets. I think the thickness is around 12.7. The tachymeter bezel insert is actually a ceramic bezel. The caliber has as its base Celita SW510, which is basically a clone of ETA 7753, which is basically 7750 just with a 369 layout rather than 6912. 56 hours of power reserve, which is much better than the Junghans Meisterpilot pieces that we were looking at. And the piece is also 100 meters water resistance, which might not pass muster with Big Meech here, but is otherwise quite serviceable for a sports watch. And that was the rating, by the way, for the Meisterpilot watches by Junghans as well. 10 bar, 100 meters of water resistance. The other detail that I do not want to forget about this piece is, again, it's a screw-down crown. So
Well, I
that's
mean,
how the...
if it's screw down, then that 10 bar is going to hold. It's going to hold.
Yeah. Okay. So it does pass mustard with you, Big Meech.
Absolutely. If it's the screw down, you got nothing to worry about.
Okay, that's good to know. And the piece again is in titanium on the matching bracelets, 43.5 millimeters, which to my taste is rather big. But maybe you are looking for a larger chronograph, and the wearability would suffer less, I suppose, because titanium is, of course, a lighter material. Case thickness is under 13 millimeters, 12.7. And finally, this happens to be also a limited edition with this particular color scheme. And in this particular treatment with this case material, so on and so forth, they have a lot of different chronographs in this series, but this particular Freelancer Pop in titanium with these turquoise or Tiffany blue details is limited to 400 pieces. I kind of like the fact that this is a multimeter scale. You have the pulsometer along the periphery of the dial, graduated for 30 pulsations, and then you have the tachometer in the form of bezel inserts. So it is an interesting piece. And almost $4,000. Not sure what am I to make out of that. $4,000 for a Raymond Weil. Not sure if I would countenance that. You can already get decent Tudor chronos at that price point on the secondary market. Again, unless you are particularly enamored with the aesthetics of this watch, I would say vote with your money and get something else or save up for something else. What do you think, Meech?
Yeah, I wouldn't touch this thing with a 10-foot pole, honestly. Sure, it may look great on paper, but for that kind of money, no, there's too many better options.
G. Gadwa says, Wilf watches I'd like to... You have a dirty mind, G. I meant watches I like to find. That's what Wilf Hunter stands for. Watches I'd like to find. Good people at Fratello apparently made another collaboration with Aquastar for the Deep Star 2. Speaking of trends, the other trend is, of course, colorful dials, and shades of salmon, copper, and pink are probably the most popular. Aquastar is, has a good, actually decent legacy with their diver watches, and this is a nice one with off-center seconds. It evolved from their original Deep Star model from the 60s. Same bezel style. For dive decompression um, tables, measurements. And unlike the original, Deep Star 2 is now a time only watch where there is no minute counter, just the small seconds at 9 o'clock. This piece has a 20 atmos of water resistance, of depth rating, 200 meters, 37 millimeters of a case diameter. I think 46 is the measurement, luck to luck, since you have a barrel shaped, or rather tonneau shaped case, as it is called in the original French. Stainless steel. And I want to say the thickness is about 12 millimeters, if I remember correctly. This Fratello edition has a pink sunburst dial. If you want to get your Barbie on, this is a good contender for a Barbie watch for men and women alike, and everyone in between or outside of that spectrum. Would you wear a pink dial watch, Meech?
A salmon dial, to be correct. Well, actually, technically, this is hot pink, so I mean, it's technically off a salmon dial. But yeah, no, actually, I wouldn't mind. There's a few pink watches that I kind of considered. I think what was one of them? I can't remember if it was a Tudor. It was a vintage Tudor. I think. But no, I wouldn't be opposed to probably more salmon than hot pink. But no, I'm not certainly not opposed to them.
I mean, if say you are taking the Mrs. Meach to be to the Barbie movie, and she knows that you're a watch guy, wouldn't this be a nice date watch?
Absolutely, and funny you should mention the movie Barbie because I was actually going to try and sneak in Friday morning to see the
Okay.
Oppenheimer film, and it's booked. It's sold out. And just for curiosity's sake, I looked at the Barbie showtime, which is like I don't know, 30 minutes before the first showing of Oppenheimer. That's booked as well. It's like at 8:30 in the morning, booked solid.
Is there a double
Uh,
header? Is there a double header?
I think so. Like they're so basically my mall is basically cleared out pretty much every theater, like every showtime slot available for just Barbie and Oppenheimer. And I'm very curious to see which one will actually take the box office. I'm very curious.
Hmm. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, you might that means you have to wait a couple of days. Is that?
No, I'm gonna try and sneak in. Like, I want to see it first, right? Like, I want to be one of the first people to see it, um,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's gonna be some great meme content in there. So I don't want the film ruined. Um, So I might either try and see like I might try and see it late Thursday night, or try and slide in at the 11 o'clock showing um, Friday morning. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's been a while since I saw a movie in the theater. I'm trying to remember what was the last. Um, the new Batman, which is already so old, may have been the last that I watched in theater. Yeah, I don't like going on my own, and as you know, I am a lone wolf these days, so I just
Well,
watch stuff
back in
on.
my day, Lord, there used to be an extremely late night showing like, for the adults only at 1 o'clock. I would go there periodically, and it was just a blast.
What was that? Was that around the same time when you ran a porn shop in Seattle? Um,
Hey, yeah, yeah. So I sometimes on my lunch break I'd hop in my Pantera, just go and catch a movie real quick late at night.
Man, I actually miss Mike. I have not tuned into one of those shows for quite some time, and if I ever do again, it would be to listen to the real Mike the Snake.
I've heard
Um,
some very interesting things about Mike over the last couple of days here.
JB JB says I fell asleep in Indiana James. Well, you literally fell asleep and even forgot the name of the movie. Must have been rather unremarkable.
It was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, compared to what was playing at the time now, I don't know. I know a lot of people are really piping up the films, which is apparently fairly controversial. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. But yeah, there's really been nothing that's really been exciting over the last couple of months here. Um,
Wait, what
watched the new Mission Impossible movie.
what
That wasn't that great, honestly.
what was it running against? What was Indiana Jones running against at the time?
Wasn't it? So it's basically, well, I mean, if I'm just running it against my movie theater here, so it's basically competing against Sounds of Freedom, which is being buried right now. Transformers, the latest Transformers film. Then it was Spider-Man, I believe, Into the Spider-Verse. And that's about it. That's what it was competing against locally around here. So I don't know. I don't know. So it's really slim pickings, honestly, when you compare them all together.
Okay. Yeah. Coming back to this, I actually kind of like it. I mean, I love more salmon copper toned pieces, but for this category, for especially in a piece like the Deep Star 2 specifically, that's very distinctly vintage inspired, um, very uniquely styled. I think it hits right home, because I'm tired of the, time only three-hander pieces with colorful dials. Every brand has one. Citizen has different colors. Rolex had them in Oyster Perpetual, which caused an entire havoc and even forced them to change the way conceived that line once again. um, Omega tried to copy them. um, the their outsourced manufacturers have failed them, of course, at that particular season. Very tragic indeed. Um, but this looks so unique to me because of the way that it is just a very vintage looking watch, and somehow it hits different with this kind of pink dial, which is it's really like cotton candy pink. It's not at all it's not at all salmon, even though they present it here as pink salmon.
It's about as pink as I better not. I better not finish that. Oh my god!
Go ahead, go the fuck ahead. I mean, it's like,
Oh
my
shit!
my woman viewership has fallen to 1% more lately, so it's like, go right ahead. I don't
Oh,
even care at this point.
ah, shit!
Isn't there a very popular song right now that has those
I
as
think, yeah, I think I know what
lyrics?
you're talking about. Yeah, I seen it was trending on Twitter a while back.
Yeah,
This
like
is what they consider music this in this day and age.
yeah, kind of like my kitten ping, my
Mhm.
um what is it, my
I don't know. You know the lyrics more than I do. See, I never pay attention.
oh my here I found the clean version, my in my own head, my kitten pink and my starfish brown. Those are the lyrics.
Starfish, starfish, as other members would say.
I'm trying to remember who the rapper was.
Wasn't it Ice Spice? I can't remember.
No, I think it's I Spice. I know where.
See, I don't get the hype. Yeah, I understand, but I just don't get the hype behind Ice Spice. Like,
I
whatever.
think it's like an old school song that's with new lyrics. Pound Town. That's what it's called. I think it is Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, probably.
Oh well, that makes sense. That makes plenty of sense right there.
Yeah,
Then.
love him, love him. Um, yeah, I mean, I love ratchet wheels with that three-band snailed finish, if you know what I mean. Um, yeah, listen, I think this watch hits different specifically because it's so clearly a vintage aesthetic, down to the beads of rice bracelet, um, and it looks so good for that reason. They are going to offer it at the Fratello shop from July 19th to July 26th. Um, it is a limited edition, but not limited in number. They will basically have that week long order window, again, from July 9th, 4 p.m. Central European Standard Time until July 26th, 4 p.m. Central European Standard Time. Excluding the VAT, the price is right under 2K in euro, 1,950 euro in total. And they are aiming to start delivering these watches at the end of um, August. Yeah, I think these are cool pieces. Good water resistance, screw down crown, Meech, that's for you.
An absolute
With
must.
200 meters of water resistance, all in stainless steel, vintage styling, but a very original dial color, in time for the Barbie season. I think this is a great watch. JB, Spence Crawford. I'm leaning Spence. What do you think? JB, you are being a partisan. You are leaning towards Spence because he's from Texas. Don't do that. Crawford is going to knock him out. I will say 10, round 10. OGBG. Hey, nice to see you, OGBG. Thank you so much. JB says it matches your favorite scarf, Meech, for the pink. I don't know, Meech, do you wear pink scarves?
No, I'm not. I'm not exactly sure where he's getting that from. Actually, I've never worn a scarf.
You look, I mean, I love the color pink. I wear pink shirts all the time. I think I have a pink scarf actually, or at least a scarf with pink accents, some pink color mixed in. Um, but yeah, Meech strikes me as an extremely masculine man. He wouldn't do anything
No,
like
I
that.
mean I've got a few pink ties, and yeah, but I've never done a scarf.
Ah, OGBG says, you said I love ratchet wheels. I thought you were going to say I love ratchet girls. Well, you got my meaning, OGBG, I think. Um, that pink watch said Miami. Yeah, why not? I mean, I think it would certainly be right at home in Miami, but really anywhere. I mean, it is going to be the season of pink. It's been the hot color ever since they started publicizing the movie, and it's not only Barbie, everything is pink colored in the movie basically. So real men wear pink, yeah, just like Ken. um
Lord,
yeah.
are you gonna go see the Barbie movie? I mean, it's a lot of eligible women probably attending it.
I'm not sure what you're insinuating there. No, but not because of, again, not because of any ideological position. As I said, I don't like going to movies on my own. I don't really have someone right now around with whom I would go to that movie in particular. I might end up seeing Oppenheimer because I have a couple of friends in town who might want to see it before it's too late. Like you said, for bragging rights somehow, so as not to miss out on the conversation. So maybe I'll
For
end up
sure.
seeing Oppenheimer. But yeah, if I find a date, hey, if you are eligible or not that I ever made that a problem, slide into my DMs. It's open to everyone, and we'll make a date out of it if you are in the Southern California region. Region. Yeah, going back to Spence Crawford, I really think Terence Crawford is a very special fighter. I think he has a lot of tools in his arsenal. Um, I think he can fight both on the offensive but also on his back foot. I think he can reel Spence in for some interesting catch and shoot kind of situations, might hit him with something that he doesn't expect, he doesn't see. It is going to be a very competitive fight, don't take me wrong. I would not be surprised if I get this particular pick wrong, but I do think Crawford is going to win. I don't think he can win on cards. I don't trust, anyone in boxing in that way. Um, and I think he Spence being promoted by, Al Heyman, who is hosting the fight, that affects the points system. So I would say Crawford by knockout, by a late knockout. Round 10 is my pick. I may be wrong, so it's not investment advice. I do highly recommend against betting as well, especially if you have an addictive personality. But yeah, that would be my guess.
Lord, just
Yes, sir.
curious, for the record, would the books are open in Vegas now, that you can now place a bet on the Special Olympics. Is there any particular particular book that you're Looking to pencil in some numbers.
Why are you like this, Mitch?
Well, I mean, hey, while we're talking about gambling in sports, if anything, it's empowering. Now that they're on an equal level.
No comments. No, I mean, look, I think it is actually a beautiful thing. Honestly, I find it very inspiring. Um, I remember seeing on a couple of occasions when I went to a boxing gym out of town. I haven't seen this in Los Angeles because in Los Angeles, boxing gyms are either very, very much grassroots, very real, or very glamorous. But elsewhere, when I go to boxing gyms, I find a more diverse atmosphere. And on one of those occasions, I actually saw someone who was hitting the heavy bag on a wheelchair, and it was one of the most inspiring things that I've ever seen in my entire life when it comes to sports. And I'm saying this as someone who is into all sorts of sappy and sentimental sports movies and documentaries and whatever else. I consume that shit like nobody's business. I'm all into the emotions that surrounds competitive sports, but nothing hit me the same way. So honestly, all respect to people who, beyond all obstacles, find ways of competing, find ways of competing in situations that um, align with their aspiration and skill. Um, love it, love it. Again, no judgment. You think it's funny. I don't blame you. Um, but I actually love the fact that that if you invest in Olympics, you have to stage Special Olympics as well. You have to give it its due. You have to push it beyond the nominal. I kind of like that. I like it. Betting is half the fun. Look, betting is a lot of fun, and that's why I don't do it. That's why I don't do it. It is too much fun, in fact. Jake Brooks says, hot in Texas. Hope you are not somewhere where it's blistering hot. That's why I'm just in a white shirt. I had like a shacket on me before, but I could just not possibly host a show with two layers here. I'm sweating right now. I mean, it's not dripping, but it's pretty hot, and I'm too cheap, as you or too poor, as you would say, Meech, to turn on the AC. So here we are. G Gadwa says boxing is rigged as Fike, and he says Lomachenko was robbed. I didn't watch that fight live, and I watched the highlights only, so I refrained from commenting. But it didn't look like a Haney victory either to me, and I actually like Devin Haney quite a bit. So yeah, make of that what you will. Didn't look like Haney won that fight, but then again, I didn't watch it live. I didn't watch the whole thing, so it's not entirely just of me to comment. All right, so let's look at a few of the watches that are going up at in Aachen. Um, I bring them up quite often. They're an auction house based in Zurich and one of the first to focus on wristwatches specifically. And their primary incentive for the buyer is the fact that they have abolished premiums. that they have done away with premiums. So what you see is what you get. What you get as the final price is what you pay. And here are a few examples that they have in the ongoing auctions with about 10 lots. There is an older version of the Oyster Perpetual. I think it's a 31, in fact. No, this is not the older version. This is just the new one. At 31, I think this is how the 3 and 9 is designed rather than as doubled markers. Feel free to correct me if I'm mistaken, Meech, or anyone else in the chat. But I think in 31, that's how they are. This is the turquoise dial, the Tiffany blue dial, which has been immensely popular in all sizes, really, and already discontinued in 41 and 36. 31 full set from 2021. And this particular piece, let me see if I can convert that to US dollars, is currently being bid at 8,200 with a fixed price of 16,350. I cannot believe how these are still hyped up. It's never gonna relent, huh, Meech?
No, did you see that thing in Discord that I put? So every now and then I get a little curious about how these Oyster Perpetuals, specifically the Tiffany's, kind of end up here. What, it's been 2 years now since these have been released, coming up on 2 years. And of course, we go to everyone's favorite gray market dealer, overpriced gray market dealer, mind you, David SW, David SW, David SW. And the delusional fuck still wants 34 grand for one of these things. Unbelievable.
This is a 41, of course. Yeah. 41 OP. You can see the doubled markers at 369. This is a full set.
I don't think
from
these will ever dip below 20, 23 grand. I just can't see it. Like, and that's just be kind of spitballing numbers there. I don't think they'll ever dip below 23 grand.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's the bank wire price too, huh? 30, basically 34,000. Insane. Still.
So even like everyone knows David SW is overpriced as fuck. So like even if you were to look at, I don't know, hypothetically Bob's watches, they would probably be at 30 grand, which is still stupid. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, it's even like, within their own metric. Look at this. Two Oyster 41s next to each other. The blue dial is 10 and a half or 10, because right next to it there's one 9.5, right? Let's take the mean, so to speak. 10 to 34. I
yeah,
mean,
it's stupid. I mean they do have a rhodium on here that's kind of nice, so it's kind of tempting. I'm not gonna lie. But even then, even if these OPs did hit, let's just say hypothetically they hit 20 grand. I think odds is right. I wouldn't trust it. Like, there's too many of these fuckers have been Frankenstein. They've had the dial swapped on them too many times. The dealers can't even, like, there's a reason the dealers just refuse to take them because they can't even tell what's real and what's not anymore. I wouldn't touch it, honestly.
yeah, me neither. I mean, look, it basically comes down to what I've been saying about a lot of the classic vintage day dates and date justs. If you're obsessed with a particular dial, by all means. But I would say source the best watch you can, right? If you're in the vintage market, that's my advice. Get the reference that you're aiming for. Let's say it's 18238. um, get the one in the best condition with a bracelet that's still nice and tight, and then hunt for the deal that you want, because at any rate you won't be any wiser if the auction house that you're buying from, or the dealer that is selling it to you, or that has listed it at that auction house, probably has changed it to that hot dial color. There's no way of you knowing that. There's no documents from the vintage era. Here, if you don't have the white tag that matches the original dial color, it's you can't trust anyone. So I would say, if you're really after a dial, just get the cheapest one you can get one at retail, and get the dial changed, for God's sake. I mean, what is this? $34,000 for, just because of the dial you pay $24,000 of a premium? Doesn't make sense.
That being said, this is probably one of the very few, and I mean very few, watches that you can call a legitimate investment because, like I said, it's not going to dip below 20s. No way. No way in hell. 20 years from now, it's not going to dip below 20. Absolutely not.
The Yeah, yes, I am kicked off out of that. I'm kicked out of that Discord because the owner doesn't like me, which is fine. I have no problems with anyone in this space. I don't chase any beefs unless someone comes to test me, in which case, God help them. But that was mentioned in the Discord that Aussie Expat runs. I think, JB, you were part of that Discord. Meech posted a snap of that David SW advertisement for the.
I'd be very curious to see what Bob's watch is. I should look it up myself, honestly. But see, I always go to David SW since they're the most overpriced. I think the only other person who's probably more overpriced than them is Del Rey. Federico.
No.
But I would, I always, like I said, I always like to use Del Rey because of, I mean, not Del Rey, David SW, because like I said, you can pretty much kind of judge from there where everything's sitting.
No, I agree. With the knowledge that they are overpriced, you can use them as a gauge. Just as I take people to Chrono 24 on the program, or sometimes, not sometimes, very often on the Patreon daily digest, to Chrono 24, always reminding them that it's overpriced,
They
up
don't even
to
have one, do they?
15-20%, and that you should always try to work out a deal. Yeah, they don't. Bob's currently doesn't have any OPs in turquoise or in so-called Tiffany blue, which actually, in and of itself, like you implied, Meech, says something, right?
Right. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on Crown and Caliber? See, I don't trust Crown and Caliber anymore after I've heard quite a few. quite a few stories from them off of various Facebook groups. So in a nutshell, what I've heard from Crown and Caliber is um, they essentially they're very much like eBay. Like they'll make sure that the watch is authentic, but they don't give a shit if it's periodically correct, and they'll just kick it off the door. Just won't tell you.
Yeah.
I've also heard the customer service is a bitch to deal with.
You know, I think in this day and age, um, except for vintage, I have a hard time giving my 100% support towards anyone. That's not to take away from anyone else and how they do their business, but to me, David SW, Wixon's Jewelers, um,
Like good
yeah,
friends at Wixon's Jewelers, guys, check them out.
good.
Best in town.
I'm sure they're lovely people, but Bob's Watches, Crown and Caliber, and whatever else, Analog Shifts, they're all the same to me. You know, there are some I know that whose names I won't even mention because I don't trust them in any way. I don't respect their knowledge. I don't trust their business practices, so on and so forth. But I also don't want to get myself in trouble and get sued or whatever. Um,
Whatever. I'm gonna sue you for defamation.
yeah, look, I mean, they can try. I don't think they can have a case stick, since I am always very advised and objective when it comes to these things. But nevertheless, for me, it's like six of one, half a dozen of the other. I would never recommend them. I would also never recommend against them. It's they are just purely average, should be approached on a case by case basis. You should always read the fine prints and focus on the return policy. And to their credit, a lot of these more corporational, bigger entities have very good return policies. OGBG, thank you. Channel support for Lord. Thank you so much. Um, $10. Thank you so much, OGBG. I appreciate that. Yeah, just make sure that you have your knowledge in order. Just make sure that you have at least someone who can check the watch for you. Once you receive the watch, when the clock starts ticking, I think the industry standard by now is 3 full days for inspection. Some of these brands give you 7, 10, or even 2 weeks to inspect the watch. Take advantage of that. Take it to your local watchmaker. Take it to your local watch expert if you don't trust your own judgment. And make sure that it is actually authentic. It's actually exactly what you want. If you trust your own judgment, that's the best. Once you hold things in your own hand, they will look different. Sometimes you might be even positively surprised, but usually when it doesn't cut mustard, you can know it on the first day and just send it back. The few hundreds that you might lose in minor shipping fees or maybe a small restocking fee is much better than getting stuck with a watch that you don't like, that you won't wear, and that just doesn't sit right. It's hard to sell those watches too. If you're an honest person yourself, if you're stiffed by someone else, you won't want to pass that kind of nastiness to the next person. So you will list it honestly and lose even more. So I would say, shop advisedly with any of these gray market establishments, and make sure that you know what you're doing, or make sure there's someone who holds your hand, who helps you train your eye, or simply helps you inspect the watch once you receive it. Use the return policy. G. Gadwa says, how much are the emoji day dates on the green? Are there even any for sale yet? Haven't checked Chrono in a while. Um, I have not seen any on the secondary market. Did you see any of these new day dates?
I don't imagine there's too many of them running around out there. They're they kind of weren't received very well, honestly. But if we're talking day dates in general, yeah,
Yeah.
day dates are kind of a steal right now, honestly. I mean, you can get one for about 20 grand from like 2002, 2005. Um, I
Oh
don't
no,
know,
I mean
man.
he's asking for that particular model.
Yeah, I
Otherwise, yeah,
know.
I'm a huge fan. Yeah, I'm a huge
Yeah,
fan of
like I
the day
said,
date.
I don't think too many people have them. I don't think they made a whole bunch of them, honestly. I think they were just for celebrities and influencers, and that's it, really.
Yeah, I have not seen any. Um, I'm not sure if they exist if they exist in the real world yet, in the sense if they are for sale. I haven't seen any on the secondary market, and I imagine, I don't know how you meant it, Meech, when you said they made a bunch of them. I imagine overall, all things said and done, they must be in very limited number in either case, compared to other day dates at any rate. Um, so I think for that reason, for the rarity and oddity and whatever else, eventually I can see them, really picking up in value. And technically, they are off the books, right? They're an
Yeah,
off the catalog model. So those pieces always, even if they are first um, disregarded or even hated by the markets, they end up um, being collectible in some shape or form. And the dial is actually um, enamel inlaid, right? It's Chanlevé enamel. And I think it has the rainbow markers too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think so. Isn't aren't those baguettes?
Yeah, baguette cut sapphires for the markers. So, a day date like that will always command a certain premium. So, if you like it and if you can get access to it, by all means. But it's not the kind of thing you want to chase on the secondary market, because I'm almost sure that it's gonna be expensive. It's gonna be
It's going to be
expensive.
expensive, and you're not going to be able to get rid of it easily. Based off of the Facebook groups that I followed, everyone's kind of reaction to it was, what the hell are they doing?
Mhm.
And it's more of a watch that's kind of useless for a day date, anyways, because it really doesn't. Well, I mean, like half the reason you would buy the day date is for the date and the day complication, right? And obviously, that complication's technically gone, right? So it's
Yeah.
just a bunch of emojis and then a bunch of I don't know, basically how are you feeling today? Happy, sad, angry, so on and so forth. So you're
Yeah.
technically getting half a watch there, and that's a lot of people's gripe about it. Is you're spending, I don't know, let's just say minimum of 80 grand for a watch that's only half useful to you.
Yeah, it's an absolute f off watch. It's not. It's I don't know what kind of statement that is. Again, it's not for me to judge, but it is a statement piece. Let's put it like that. It's certainly not something you get for functionality. You know, again, I I don't know, man. I think the dial in and of itself as a work, from as much as I can see from the pictures, it looks kind of nice. Um, but I really don't get the concept. Um,
I think it would have been better received if it would have been a date just rather than day date, right? Like at least with the date just, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. Or you could have had, I don't know. It just seems so, like you said, out of left field with the day date.
Actually, I mean, I think of it the other way around, Mish, in the sense that I get the emojis for the day and the date and whatever, right? Emoji and mood combination, right? I get that.
Right.
I just don't see, and maybe I'm missing something, and maybe someone can teach me something, either you or someone from the chat. I don't see how it comes together with the design on the dial. Like, what does the puzzle have to do with emojis? And what do the emojis then have to do with the mood? Emoji and mood, I can get it, right? Because, emojis are memes, basically. They express in a very condensed way your mood and the certain message that you want to send out to the world. I get that. But how does that connect back to the puzzle? Do you have an idea for that?
I just go with what everyone else kind of assumes, and that it's just an autism awareness type thing. Although, it, everyone just kind of says like, "Oh, it's funny that Rolex doesn't really own up to this." They just, and whenever somebody just kind of goes on the assumption that, "Oh, you're doing it for autism," Rolex just kind of just rolls their eyes and says, "No, we just did it
I
because we could."
I disavow. I mean, I don't. Uh,
I mean, if it
I
is for
try,
something like that, I mean, I think
not.
it's cool. But quite frankly, yeah, like you said, like
No, it
it's
is. I
just
mean, it is
random.
cool, but it's not. It's not that. I mean, I would appreciate it. Being on the spectrum, I would love that. But the yeah, I don't think that's the intention at all. Um,
I don't know. It's
how
just
how does it
weird.
make sense? I mean, if that's autism awareness, how does the rest of it make sense?
Maybe it's because maybe the reason why it doesn't make sense is what makes it make sense, right? Um, all I just see is I just
You're
don't see
too
the
much
watches.
sometimes, Mitch.
I don't know. I don't really see the watch. I'm kind of with the general mass. I just don't see it as practical, and I wouldn't see it as desirable for myself, honestly. But
Yeah, look, I mean, if I would pine for um, Rolex pieces at that level, whether it's off the catalog or basically bordering on six digits, I think I would rather get the Platinum Daytona with, baguette diamonds for our market.
the Platona.
You're on the roll today. Yes, and I honestly, I couldn't care less about who else owns the watch, who else likes it. I do not care. If I like the watch, I like it. If you from that perspective, Ocean has the king turtle. The engineer of the Holocaust had a reverso, so the whole thing is ruined for me if you look at it um, from that perspective. So yeah, I don't care if Marcelo has it. I like the watch. It is what it is.
I don't know. All I can just kind of say is, Ozzy, how does it feel to be second to, or how does it feel to be bested by Ponticello? You know, knowing that you'll never get that Platona.
I kind of like your impression, though. I have to say that. OGBG says, "Hi, Meech. Pet a baby sheep for me." What's going on with your sheep, man? I heard some
Uh,
on your Instagram.
oh yeah, no, no, I think we've discussed this already, but yeah, no. I sold out, and I'm just gonna be starting all over with the new breed next year. So yeah.
Okay, so it's you are still keeping the sheep.
Well, I mean, you have to get rid of all the old stock, if you will, if you're gonna bring in a new herd, because it's just easier that way for one, and two, you cannot crossbreed these two. I mean, you can, but it's just a world of headache. So it was just easier to get rid of all the ones that I currently had right now, and then the following year just start over fresh with the brand new breed, and we'll see what happens.
My apologies. I needed to stuff my face a little bit. Those pineapples that I froze, I need something cold, man. It's
As the narc would say, Lord, you fat fuck.
that's one guy I could never suffer. I mean,
Dude, I'm not gonna get into him. I'm not gonna. I mean, but that's an interesting topic in itself. But I'm not gonna get into it right now.
please don't. I mean, I can talk about any other character, but not that guy. I mean, I don't have the slightest appreciation for him.
Yeah, a lot of people are feeling the same way, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. And I mean a lot of people.
It's just I mean, w- I'm not gonna insult him in absence. It's okay. He has done it to me. I'm not gonna return the favor. I'm sure you would enjoy that kind of treatment. So let me just pass over it in silence. Um, all right, we were talking about some of the pieces in Eichen, and because they had an OP31 with the turquoise dial, with the Tiffany blue dial, we what happened there? Okay,
Hmm.
can you hear me, Mitch?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because we had the OP31 here, we took a little digression. Through the world of Rolex and how the Tiffany blue still sustains the hype and still trades well above all the other examples with a heavy premium. But this is the 31 millimeter example of the OP, currently being bid at 8,200 in US dollars at in Eichen, with a fixed price of 16,350. There's a very interesting Pasha 38 millimeters with the rotational timing bezel and a dial with Roman numerals, which is relatively unusual, if not entirely rare, since Jarajanta's original design decidedly went for Arabic numerals to have that particular statement. This piece has tritium as the luminous material, which, as you can see, has visibly expired, both on the luminous dots and on the lozenge-shaped hands, which are also heat blued. Sweep center second hand, a railroad track for the minutes and seconds, Roman numerals for the hour markers, as mentioned, and a rotational bezel for 60 minutes, graduated for the first 20 minutes, coming on its matching stainless steel bezel, a bracelet, I mean, that is blue spinel, not sapphire. As you can see, it also comes with an additional leather strap with the Cartier déployant clasp, date between 4 and 5, which is ridiculous, by the way they chopped off. Like, why do you use a watchmaker's the 4 sticks, if you're going to chop one of them off? Just use the traditional, Roman way of writing it, so you won't have to chop it off. But hey, I've seen stranger things on the face of a watch. This is an interesting piece at 38 millimeters, kind of straddles or splits the difference between the sporty and dressy aspects of the Pasha. I think it looks quite sporty here on the matching stainless steel bracelets, maybe a little more dressy on the leather strap, but looks good either way. This particular piece is currently being bid at 2,250. The fixed price is 4,200. There are Cartier Pachas in 38 millimeter and stainless steel for around $2,000 every day of the week. Be my guest. I mean, there are so many different styles and dials, colors, etc. I will not necessarily go for something like this unless, again, you're particularly in love with this combination of visual cues. Do you like the Pasha, Meech, at all?
No, not really. I think on a woman it looks great, but on a man it looks no.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, I don't.
I think Cartier on a woman is absolutely sexy. It's the most attractive thing a woman can wear. It's Mike the Snake approved.
I like this new awkward snicker that you added to your
Dude,
routine.
he always does it too. He always does it. I've just noticed every time he gets put into an awkward position, he does an awkward laugh. I love it.
Um, yeah, I think I'll say this: the oversized versions of the Pasha just look too large to me at 41 millimeters. At 38 or smaller, I kind of like it, actually. And I can see what you mean. I think it is a slightly feminine watch, but I like it. I like it. I think it's an acquired taste, so to speak. I understand that. I don't think it will ever hit the hype wave in the same way that many other Jarajanta designs did. But I think it's an interesting niche. It's an interesting design, and I appreciate it, especially on a leather strap, which doesn't surprise me, I'm sure.
Ooh, cheap and nasty. Correct me if I'm wrong, but these Pashas are fairly thick, aren't they? So I'm assuming this 38 mil would probably ride more closer to a 39, 40?
Yeah, 38 wears quite large, and they are usually a lot of the post 90s pieces, especially, are usually fitted with ETA base movements, and they are fairly thick. Yeah, like, it doesn't have the hockey puck feel, to be honest, but I also don't think they are, thin and delicate in the way you might expect from a Cartier watch, right? If you're used to the Tank, Santos Dumont, and even Santos as your genre of Cartier watch, Pasha is thicker for sure.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, look at it from profile. You see?
It's not crazy thick because it's fairly
Yeah.
wide, but I'm assuming it's got to be, 13 and a half?
Yeah, let me double check. But I think the reason it strikes you as a thick watch is because, it's relatively speaking, right? Because it's a Cartier watch. It's just looks thick for what it is. 1011, 1075 11, something like that. It's actually
Right.
less. Chronographs might be a little thicker because they have chronographs too.
Because I remember seeing Chris Montesanti's Posh, and I remember looking at that thing. And I'm like, damn, that thing's fucking huge. Although I think his was more 41, if I remember correctly. I could be way off on that.
It could be a larger version, although it's really hard to know. I mean, because I don't know how tall or Michael Imperioli is not a big guy, huh? Right?
I don't know. I mean, like frame wise, no. I don't think he's ever been.
Let me see if I did post on the Instagram a photo of him with his Cartier pieces, including the Pasha. So let's see if I find it. I think we can get an idea, but I kind of think I had the thought that it was the 38, but you never know because it's just, you see, I mean, he's not a big guy. If this were 41, it would look larger than this. This is the Tank Française with, you see, diamonds on the flanks. And this is the Pasha on the matching bracelet and with the grill or grid on the crystal. Yeah, I think this should be 38 Meech. And assuming that it's, 11 millimeters maybe at most in thickness.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Like I said, I just remember glancing at it one time. And I just thought it was fairly large, just in general.
Oh, an interesting point of reference would be, it hasn't been too long, but I posted on one of my YouTube shorts a 35 millimeter Pasha, and it looks, not small. Let's put it like that. On the bracelet with the salmon dial. I would wear this for sure.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's a cool watch. Yeah, that's reference 2324, which, if you measure just the case, is 35 millimeters, but with the T-bar styled lugs and the canteen style rather protruding crown, it does register larger. And my wrist is small, so it is what it is. Another interesting piece here is this AP 6005 BA. This was basically AP's ingenious way of sneaking in quartz movements into the Royal Oak line. This is how they tested them out with this unique square case. I've never been a fan of these. Even that classic bracelet style, which I really enjoy, and which is one of the distinctive elements of the overall Royal Oak design for me, still can't redeem the watch for me. It's a quartz powered piece. Some of these pieces are marked on the dial as such, but this one is a little more discreet about its sins. Interesting design, of course, a very um, slick profile on the watch, owing, of course, to the design cues, but also the quartz caliber here. 26.5 by 32.5. Those are the case diameters. Currently being bid at 8,200 with a fixed price of 10,500. Again, there's no buyer's premium, so you should feel free to take what you see as the price you might end up paying. What do you think about these pieces, Mitch? I know you are not even a huge fan of the Royal Oak to begin with, but
No, actually, I really wanted one of these back in the day.
yeah.
Very much so. As a matter of fact, I went even out of my way to try and headhunt one down. And I came across one, but it was in rough shape. And I believe
Okay.
I can't remember what they wanted for it, but it was too much. The bracelet was fucked to pieces. The case had a large dent into it. So I just left it go. But I always, I'm probably the minority here. But yeah, I always thought these would be really cool to have. I personally like them. I like them more in the I don't know if I did stainless steel. I can't remember if they actually manufactured these in stainless steel at the time, but um, yeah, I like them. I actually
They,
really like them a lot.
they had them all. They had them all. They had these in two-tone, they had these in stainless steel, they had them in 18 karat yellow gold. Um yeah. Not sure if it came in any other kinds of precious metal. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some rare executions, but 6005 certainly does come in those three options. Yeah, look, I was never a fan, but this one looks like it's in decent condition. Um, the dimensions are not minuscule, even though they are reduced. Um, but yeah, I was never a fan. The 222 Vacheron Constantin 222 also has a similar um, sibling, so to speak. Also, not a big fan of that, but hey, some people appreciate them. I'm very surprised that you do as well, Mitch. Honestly, because I assume that since you are not a fan um, of the Royal Oak to begin with, I thought you would also hate this, but
No, I'm actually a huge fan of the Royal Oak. It's just I can't
you
find
are.
one that fits me. Yeah, no, if I could have a Royal Oak for sure. I mean, it's Holy Trinity. I mean, fuck the Vacheron. Why the fuck would anyone buy Vacheron when they can clearly get the Royal Oak? It's just Royal Oaks are just well, they're kind of simmering down right now, I guess. Price wise, but they're still a little expensive, honestly.
I mean, simmering down from the absurd heights they had scaled,
Now an
I
offshore, unlike Ozzy, I would never touch one of those fucking things with a 10-foot pole, honestly.
Oh, there's even, I was looking at the 6005 now on just very quickly on Chrono 24. There's even a white gold example on Chrono 24. Absurdly overpriced, of course, since it's so rare, but there you go.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever buy one of these now, honestly. But I still like them. If I could find one that's quote unquote reasonable, that's not fucked to pieces, I'd probably add it. Just purely out of boredom.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is, um, in steel or in precious metal, you would be lucky to find them around 15, and you can get a 14790, like with a self-winding caliber, proper reduced sized Royal Oak for that money. So in two-tone you can get them for 12 and a half, I guess. That's a decent. Hey Mookie, how are you doing, man? That was a gray dial, but OGBG, it's with patina, with years of aging and fading, they take on different hues. So I can certainly see why you thought it was green. Yeah, it's almost 20,000 now on the secondary market. I mean, I would, um, for that reason, actually, this is quite reasonably priced here for 10 and a half, no buyer's premium. I think someone should snipe this if they actually like it. In 18 karat yellow gold, that looks pretty good to me. Of course, the bracelets, uh, it may need
Fucked.
some rehauling, maybe, if you want to put it like that. But it does look a little weak, but that's also because they opened it up, so if you open it up both ways and just let it down like that, it's gonna look even more limp than it actually is. So the original color of this tapestry dial, OGBG, translates basically cloudy night sky number 50. Bleu nuit, nuage 50. So that's the original dial color name. It is, depending on the angle, all the way from black to navy blue to a kind of petrol green, blue green, and depending how it ages, can turn anywhere from gray to even like tropical coppery brown kind of patina as well. You might say that's a good thing because that's part of appreciating a lot of the Royal Oak vintage pieces, but it's also hit and miss. If they are not well kept, the dials can often be damaged and can take on patina that is completely unseemly. Mitch, I actually need to take off for 2 minutes. Can you take this over?
Yeah, sure.
Step onto your soapbox again. I'm sure you'll say something political, but please be my guest.
Sure, absolutely. Whew. When we look at the state of the U.S. right now, it's in shambles. It's a disaster. It's futile to hope that we have a better future. But with a little luck, hopefully, hopefully in this 2023 presidential election coming up, we can attempt to vote for a change. We're gonna take back America again. We're gonna make it great again. It's gonna be beautiful. We're gonna meet a lot of beautiful people. Honestly, I really got nothing. Oh wait, no, I do have one thing. Allegedly, the White House staff has is dumbfounded. They can't figure out whose cocaine was found in the White House. Imagine that. You know, they just can't quite figure it out, and they're just going to sweep it underneath the rug. Absolutely fucking despicable. It's a travesty. Man, if that just doesn't sum up the government in one swing there, their odious behavior, it's just it's sad. In the end, it's just absolutely sad. Everyone knows that it's either Joe or Hunter Biden's cocaine, and it's just nobody wants to fucking admit it. It's a travesty. Let's look at the comments. My kid might like that. Oh, well, okay, interesting. In other news, let's see here. Running out of gas here. Well, I mean, we're coming up to August here, so last month of summer, I guess.
How's it going, Mitch?
Oh no, man, it's absolutely devastating. It's like it's 1 a.m. and I've got nothing on hand.
Gondog has a very topical question here. Hey, Gondog, nice to see you as well. One of my OG supporters on Patreon, among other things. He says, which watch would suit each of the main presidential candidates, Mitch?
I mean, has there officially been a campaign for each presidential candidate right now?
Well, DeSantis is officially a candidate now. He's going to run in the primaries. We know that, at least, right?
We could always count on Hillary Clinton to show up for the 100th time.
So wait,
Joe Biden's not even running anymore.
DeSantis, so... Biden, Trump. Let's run with this 3.
Okay, so I don't even know who DeSantis is. So Joe Biden, he doesn't even have a watch anymore. He just has this. What they essentially do is they take a giant Apple AirTag and they just slap it on his wrist. They put it right next to his life alert, and they just kind of use that to keep track of him. When it comes to the soon-to-be next president, Donald J. Trump, you know what? I think he's a paddock man. He's definitely a paddock man. Doesn't he have? What the hell does he have? He has the not a gondola. What the fuck is it? It's an obscure paddock. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Yeah, the ellipse. Yeah, he has one of those. And let me tell you something, man. If you look at that watch on his wrist, my God, it looks like twine trying to be baked over bread. I mean, God damn, does he have that thing on there fucking tight? I mean, how circulation goes through his hand is it's a mystery to me. But Jesus Christ, does he have that thing wrapped on there? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton. Does she even wear a watch? Honestly, she doesn't strike me as the type. Honestly,
I think she had a man's Rolex president. They. Yeah.
I wonder what victim that came off of. But well, there you have it.
I disavow all these conspiracy theories. As you can see in the rolling ticker, guys, this is not me. But all of that being said, I think I would say Ron DeSantis looks like a G-Shock man to me, or maybe a Timex weekender. Biden, I guess, can return to his Seamaster. Doesn't he have an Omega Seamaster?
He rotates between 2, right? So he has an Omega Seamaster. It's a 300. Well, I know he's got a Speedmaster. He's been seen with a Speedmaster. I'm pretty sure he has a 300. Not the ceramic version, but the previous gen.
I think
And
so.
then he has arguably the worst date just configuration. I mean, the only savings grace to it is it's got a blue dial, but I believe his is smooth bezel and Jubilee bracelet. Fucking hideous. I don't care what dial color it is. Just a hideous build. I know he's got a Seiko as well. So yeah.
I think I remember seeing on Trump's wrist one time from the buckle side, Vacheron Constantin watch. I don't know what kind of Vacheron that was, but that could be
I think it was a
interesting.
222, honestly.
No, it was on leather strap. I mean, at least he might have a 222. I don't know, but this one was on a leather strap with that Maltese cross tank buckle. So clearly that one wasn't 222, but
I think that Donald also has the president. I mean, it would be a little weird if he didn't, but I'm pretty sure he does. And I think his has diamonds in it, which is tacky, but whatever.
I'm seeing it some sort of, I don't know if this is correct, but I found a website which has a rectangular piece.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing this.
It looks
It's
okay.
completely obscure.
Honestly, I kind of like that. Yeah, I mean, this
Well,
wouldn't
it
surprise
works
me,
for him because Donald's a big boy. Like, I mean, not big boy like he's built like like an actual unit. He's just big from just sitting. Uh, so it works for him.
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, I like that kind of square shape. I like these kinds of oddly shaped watches, and Vacheron Constantin seems just entirely appropriate. Um, and the ellipse is great, but I feel it would be, unless it's the most recent version, it would be a little bit too small for Donnie, no?
Yeah, and the watch, I mean, even in its current renditions, it just looks completely outdated. It looks like it's like from the 40s, honestly. I never saw the appeal in this watch. And I think it's even listed in the women's category now, isn't it?
No, it's not. Not that I'm, not that I'm particularly invested in rescuing its honor. Uh, I like the watch, but it's not. It's actually absurdly big for what it is in the um, current rendition. Right. Going back to in Eichen, we were looking at some of the odd pieces they had.
I think what the Bin Laden special was. Wasn't it a Casio F91W?
You mean the Al Qaeda standard issue?
Wasn't it? I think so. I know it's so randomly off the cuff, but
It was a kind of interesting. I mean, it's yeah, F91W is I think they use those watches to, you know, with the IEDs apparently.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
that's
something
what I
along.
that's what I heard. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but
I so there was a TV show back in like 2000, was it 2010? Basically, it was 1,000 Ways to Die, and they always did like a close retelling of the accounts of how people unfortunately passed away. And one of them was from like one of the stories was about Qaeda terrorists who they synced up their it was a Casio, I think. They synced up the Casio to like the world time or whatever for the to the satellite. And they were going to attach it to a bomb, and they were just going to do like basically just going to dump it off in a large town. But when they synced the watch, he'd set it for like an hour later, and something about daylight savings time uh caused the bomb to go off like within 5 minutes of them getting inside their car.
So they ended up killing themselves, basically, and no one else.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Good.
It's just like
Good.
two idiots who killed themselves.
Good. Look, I mean, ideally, no one wants anyone killed, or at least I don't want anyone getting killed. But if someone with malicious intent like that gets himself killed, I'm not gonna feel bad about it for sure. This is an early caliber 861 Speedmaster in the professional case, 42 millimeter with those characteristic twisted lugs, or lyre lugs as they're sometimes called, made by Iganin Frères. Of course, the Moonwatch, basically the minute it was christened, the Moonwatch was reintroduced with the new movement, caliber 861. This example being from right around 1970 is one of the early examples of the Speedmaster with that movement, which went through a few revisions and is currently represented by 3861. As you can see, this is still early enough that it has the hippocampus, the seahorse logo on the back with Speedmaster rather than the first watch on the moon spiel they still have going on. And there is a look at that brass, pink, gold plated version of the 861, which replaced the legendary Moonwatch movements 321, which in its turn is based, of course, on the Lemania CH27. Here it is with an archival extract before they closed up shop and stopped issuing these archival extracts for reasons, for reasons I covered on this channel quite extensively. I have an entire playlist of that if you are interested in that Omega law.
Oh shit, yeah, man, you're muted.
When did that happen?
About just 10 seconds ago.
Okay.
It's not.
Thank you.
It's not nothing serious.
Oh yeah, this is a pretty cool piece. I really like it. An early example of the Omega Speedmaster Professional with caliber 861. And with an archival extract, as I was mentioning before they closed up shop. after the story about the Speedmaster that never was exposed first by Periscope very extensively, and then through the Swiss national press. And I covered the story in that playlist I sent out to you. This piece has a fixed price of 7,000 US dollars and is currently being bid at 5,150 with about 4 days to go until closing. Would you ever get a vintage Speedmaster, or are you done with Speedmasters? Are you planning to upgrade, downgrade, side grade? What are you thinking?
No, I don't think I'd ever get a vintage Speedmaster. I think one Speedmaster's enough, honestly. Mine's worth $8,000 now. Shout out to Omega for increasing the prices. Certainly appreciate him for that. As far as getting, I mean, yeah, it would be fun to get like the black and gold Omega, but shit, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I certainly do appreciate the, so make a long story short, when I was at Wixon's, they had a vintage Speedmaster on, and I had sold mine, my previous gen a long time ago, and I just threw it on the wrist, and I thought to myself like, oh, this sits so nice. It sits flat, you know. Of course it was the non-sapphire version, so it was a little bit thinner. And I thought to myself, you know, why have I not gotten one of these again? And it was kind of a dick move because I did try and negotiate with them, and they were just stuck in their ways. And I remember the last thing I said was, you know, like, hey, the Omega store doesn't close until 5, you know, and it was like 4:30 when I was at Wixon's, and we couldn't come to a deal, so I got in my truck and I just zoomed over to the Omega dealer and bought my Speedmaster there. So I think it's a great watch. I think everyone should, and I think everyone should at least experience it.
I agree.
And I know as much as I kind of toy with the idea of selling it, especially with the way the Speedmasters have kind of jumped up in price. I know I'd want it again. And I'm just not. I mean, buying it once, or buying it twice now, I suppose, is enough for me to know that I'd want one regardless whether I wear it or not. And hey, you know what's not to like? I guess for what it is. I mean, especially at the price point I got mine. So yeah, I guess in conclusion, I like it. I just don't see myself adding or becoming a huge Speedmaster collector, because I
And
know there's guys out there like that.
what about? I know you were at some point. I don't know how seriously you can tell me. You were contemplating kind of a precious metal version. Um, are you still warming up to that idea, or is it colder?
I
Or
love the idea. I love the idea of it, and the fact that I could get it for, I think it was like 20% off at the time, which wasn't that long ago. It was like 4 or 5 months ago. But see, I think if I remember my numbers correctly, that would technically hammer out to 37,000 before your tax. So there's too many watches that I want right now, or maybe not too many, I should say, but for the price of 37,000, right? Um, I'm toying around with the idea of buying a Yachtmaster or an Oyster Flex, and that's, I don't know, off the top of my head, that's got to be what, 27,000. And then I'm, you know, at 39,000, you could may as well just round up and buy a Daytona on Oyster Flex. So I think if I had all the watches that I wanted, right? And I know this sounds like a cliche statement, but if I had all the watches that I really want to end with, I would start buying quote unquote stupid shit like this. I would buy the Parmigiani Retropont. I would buy a gold Speedmaster. Why? Because I can. You know, it's basically it. I wouldn't rule it out completely, but it's certainly not in the cards right now.
Yeah, I think, I don't have any strong opinions about, on the one hand, it does strike me as a little bit of a contradiction in terms, because we have kind of assimilated, absorbed this messaging of the Speedmaster as the ultimate tool watch, right? So it does sound a little bit like a contradiction in terms for me when I see it in precious metal. But I've been warming up to the idea, not necessarily for me, but I'm not averse to its existence, so to speak. What rubs me off the wrong way, and as much as I know the particularly limited nature of the 321 production, or at least assembly, I kind of feel, at that price point, I feel like all the precious metal versions should get the 321 caliber rather than just the standard one. But maybe I'm expecting too much. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, if I were to get a special Speedmaster, it would be the 321 in stainless steel. I know they have that in fact, they introduced it in platinum, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but it's so fucking much money, if I remember correctly, right?
I know.
It's like 40 grand minimum.
Like I think they have it in, okay, they have it in white gold, on matching bracelet for almost $89,000, $88,900.
Jesus Christ.
And then the platinum was, I think, how they introduced it, but that is in the professional case, on the leather strap, but with these meteorite, I believe, chronograph registers. That is 65,200.
Yeah. And I was gonna pile on to this here, just in general, whether you're getting the red, gold, platinum, whatever. The fact that this watch isn't water resistant, it's the one thing. Like, no, I'm being serious. If you're gonna spend that much money, if you're gonna shell out that much money on a gold watch, right? That fucker should at least be able to hold water. I don't care what anyone said. That fucker should be able to hold water, and I don't care what the brand is. Cartier is the same way. I mean, I would love despite my controversial feelings, I guess, towards Cartier, I would love a medium-sized rose gold Santos. But at the same time, you got to remember that's not a screw and crown. I feel like if you're gonna shell out that much money for that much luxury, all four bases should be kind of covered.
I don't know. I think that to me is a very twisted logic. I understand. Look, even on its face value, when you say it's a sports watch, it has to have a screw down crown, I can understand it. I disagree with it. Not all sports watches have to be 200 plus meter water resistant. That's a different kind of sports watch. There are enough, examples and variations of that. I'm fine with that. But this one, I can't even understand. I mean, just because you're paying a lot of money for a watch, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, watches cost a lot of money for all sorts of reasons. What does water resistance have to do with it?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm around water more often than most people in this community. I mean, I understand the majority of this community probably doesn't see the outdoors very much, but I mean, shit. I'll give you a good example. Long story short, I had to help out a neighbor here with her cattle, and we had to move a water tank. And at the time, I was wearing my President, and we moved it over, and the tank ended up tipping over, and my watch got absolutely soaked in water. Now, it doesn't bother me, right? Because President's waterproof or water resistant, excuse me, and it has a screw and crown. You can't do that with a Speedmaster, my guy. You can't. Not and I try and wear the Speedmaster enough, but I don't know. It just irks the piss out of me if you're spending that much money and you just can't hold water. I don't know. I've always been like that.
Yeah.
Then again, I wear mine as much as possible, so therefore I put my watches in probably in situations in which they were not meant to be in, which is a fair, rebuttal, I guess.
I mean, look, I wear all my watches all the time. I'm outside, but certainly not outdoors. I actually hate hiking. And the most outdoorsy activity that I do here is to run the streets. So I do get it. I do get it. But for me, a precious metal watch of a certain kind, even if it's a Speedmaster, um, it has to be a watch for special occasions. Now, I'm not saying that that special occasion is once or twice a year. I would still end up wearing it at least 3 times a month, but I think I would wear it on days where I would not really be immersed in water anyways. So for me, it sounds like a very minor concern. And accidents can happen, of course, always. Um, and if you feel, if that sort of scenario is playing out in your mind when you are choosing your watch, I absolutely understand. But I don't think any watch really needs more than 100 meters of a depth rating, and that's only when you have to swim or shower with it. Other than that, 30 meters will get you through the day easy, even in the situations that you're describing. Some idiot spills water on your watch. That's another thing. Um, but if you want to have the peace of mind, I understand that. I respect that. Yeah, that. I mean, even in steel, this has a serious premium on it. Um, and aesthetically speaking, I have to say, I like the steel the most, probably at any rate. Um, I kind of like the fact that this is an even smaller and more kind of nostalgia driven case and dial design. It just, I wish they had an option on the leather strap or something. Maybe that would be a little more reasonably priced for $89,000. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. I've gone back and forth on the Ed White 321. I used to really crave it, but now I could take it or leave it, honestly. And maybe
Mhm.
it's because I'm just not a huge Speedmaster fan in the end.
I think they are so scarce that they are really so unavailable and mostly unobtainable. Most people have given up on them. So I don't blame you. I haven't actively chased them down. Um, it is what it is. I wouldn't mind owning one in stainless steel. So I kind of like the fact that JJ got one. I like that. I admire that. But otherwise it seems a little salty to me in terms of pricing, even in stainless steel. Right. Last 20 minutes, by the way, everybody, if you have any questions, any demands, if you want to simply support the channel, there's your chance for the last 20 minutes. we're looking at some of the pieces that are listed here on in Eichen. There's the ultimate acquired taste watch. I think also in the least desirable version too. I think the millinery, when it's used as a canvas for special designs, like the Quincy Jones signature edition, some of the open worked treatments, and especially for the star wheel complication, it can be an interesting piece. But for this simple three-hander time and date with a kind of military dial execution, I think it looks really unseemly. With that oval shape, black two-tone dial, and again, broadsword hands, sweep center second sand, and oversized Arabic numerals. I kind of like the case design from the profile, with the downturned lugs, satin brushed and rounded case band. And again, I don't necessarily mind the case shape as a canvas when it's more innovatively used or decorated. I absolutely love this clasp of the double AP initials. That's kiss upon closure. And this particular example is offered as a full set in as one of the lots in the timed pieces from in Eichen. No buyer's premium. The piece is currently being bid at $3,750 in US dollars. The fixed price, which can be used as a buy it now option to trigger the end of the auction at any point in time, is $5,850, and there's no buyer's premium involved in either case. Here is a watch that has sort of fallen through the cracks. The 222 has seen its resurgence, but the Fidias, which is another one of Vacheron Constantin's integrated bracelet models, I think it's a creature of the 90s, still remains forgotten, perhaps for good reason. This is a bimetal version, a two-tone execution of the Fidias with a gold bezel and gold center links and a stainless steel case. I like how that treatment is carried out, and I kind of like the bracelet on these pieces, by the way, which wears very nicely. The watch itself is how it I mean, it's very hard to explain because this is the kind of watch that feels great on the wrist. I just don't like the way it looks, so it's hard to say much of anything positive about it. But I kind of like the design because of how slender, how slick, how thin it is, and how nicely it sits on the wrist. I just don't like the way it looks. The bracelet is a nice design. The bracelet itself, I think, doesn't look too bad, but overall, I'm not a huge fan. This is basically like a full set with the original presentation box, papers, and outer packaging. The Vacheron Constantin Phidias in a two-tone execution, 34 millimeters in case diameter, and an overall integrated look. The piece has a fixed price of 4,700. The current bid stands at 2,800. I feel overall they have priced the watches quite reasonably in this round. I think that's Tourbillon auction, which was a catastrophe for them, where they sold maybe like 5% of the watches at most, maybe even less, maybe taught them a lesson. So they have been quite conservative in terms of pricing the watches in this round. I will get to the jewelry auction or jewelry watches auction tomorrow, or rather on Thursday. I'm taking tomorrow off. So we'll talk about those as well, but these separately listed pieces seem to be very reasonably priced. And last but not least, we are going to take a look. Sorry, we have two more pieces. So we're going to take a look at this Arnold & Son pièce unique, one-of-a-kind watch. Arnold & Son, of course, traces its roots back to one of the masters of the marine chronometer, but it is nowadays owned as kind of, high horological maker, an artisanal maker owned by Swatch Group, Swiss-made watches. Again, taking over that English name, Arnold & Son, Arnold being John Arnold, the 18th century watchmaker, who was very innovative and especially was well renowned for his marine chronometers. This particular piece is a time-only piece with an off-center dial located at 9 o'clock, Roman numerals for the hour markers, and railroad track for the minutes, a sweep center seconds hand that travels the larger dial, which has a beautiful micro painting of a bald eagle. We're past July 4th, but it should still be an interesting piece. The case is in pink gold and in 44 millimeters, which gives you a very large canvas for this unique enamel dial that is finished on a mother of pearl with a bluish tint, enamel painting of a bald eagle, and arrow-styled, pierced, heat-blued hands for hour and minutes on the off-center dial, as well as the sweep center seconds centrally placed. Matching tank buckle in 18 karat pink gold. And here's a view of that movement from the exhibition case back. Rhodium plated, south winding with a full rotor. Kind of like a solarized, or rather kind of like a Geneva stripes in the form of sun rays decorating the bridge plates, as well as heat blued screws, not to mention the circular graining or perlage on the base plate, a number of nice finishing techniques. And before I forget, the seconds is actually, I was mistaken to say it's sweep. It's actually deadbeat seconds. So it actually jumps. So that is even more interesting, having given it so much prominence on the dial. You also get that extra trick up the sleeve. The piece comes with its original packaging and papers as well. Again, one of a kind piece, 44 millimeters in diameter. South winding piece with an off-center dial, a beautiful enamel painting of a bold eagle on a mother of pearl dial with a slight blue tint, and a jumping second sand, a deadbeat second sand that is centrally deployed over the primary dial. That piece is currently being bid at 16,900 in US dollars, with about 4 days left. Someone out of Germany who had the good sense of hiding his name, or hiding their name, is bidding on it. And the fixed price, which can be used as a buy it now option to trigger the end of the auction at any point in time, is 25,650 in US dollars. No buyer's premium, as is the case for this one of a kind Arnold and Son piece. Finally, last but not least, so please hit the like button if you're on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm here with watch content almost every day, sometimes more than once. And if you have any last minute questions or requests, feel free to send in a super chat. This is a Girard Perregaux chronograph in a uniquely shaped case. It is a rectangular design with kind of like a extended lugs that are angular and slightly turned down, a solid case back, which is curved to sit nicely and ergonomically on the wrist. The model line is called vintage because of this particular case style. Here is the movements without the case back. The piece is executed in white gold with a black dial, which gives it very strong Art Deco vibes. oversized Arabic numerals at 12 and 6, which are luminous, and leaf-shaped hands for hour and minutes, which are also filled with loom, with the chronograph hands looking like fossil hands for their size. They're very similar to the hour and minute hands in terms of their styling. And railroad tracks for the minutes, seconds, as well as the minutes in the minute counter. The railroad track on the primary dial, on the main dial, is placed radially, so has that Art Deco inspiration, kind of giving you the impression of sun rays. Very interesting styling for this precious metal chronograph. Very vintage looking. A very strong statement. Not sure if it's a statement that I would want to make, but this could be a great watch for someone who likes this sort of Art Deco design. With about 4 days to go, this Girard Perregaux quote-unquote vintage chronograph is being bid at $4,700 in US dollars. The fixed price is $8,200. In both cases, the buyer's premium does not apply. Thank you, OGBG. The price for this piece is at fixed, it's 8,200, but it's an ongoing auction, so you can wait. You can track what time it is going to end, and try to snipe in a last minute bid. If you were asking about the Arnold and Son piece, here's the link for that as well. And same applies for that. There are about 4 days left. So the bidding currently stands right under $17,000. And the auction can end at any point in time with a bid of $25,650. But in each case, there's a good chance that things might conclude at a lower price point. Thank you again for everything. Thank you so much for your support, for your presence, for all your questions, suggestions, and interventions in the chats. Thank you, Mitch, for being my main interlocutor tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you on the panel, even though I fully disavow your political messaging.
Remember, vote Republican.
Well, I can't disagree with that, if that's what you're saying. But I don't vote, so vote whatever you want. Oh wow, okay. I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. I don't know. I'll try to see if there's a problem on my end. But sometimes there are daily limits on these things. So, and I don't, I don't check on people. So I don't know what.
I think that's I don't know what it is. It's something with YouTube directly here, because I can no longer send $5 super chats. Doesn't matter who I go to. It's something like if you do it enough times in a short period, for some reason, YouTube will not allow you to ever do it again. It's fucking bizarre. And I've heard that happen to a few other people at different amounts.
Okay. Yeah, it might be some sort of a glitch, but then again, sometimes it's maybe without reason. Sometimes it's because of certain daily limits. And again, I'm not the kind of person who cares about what you do, whether, if and when and how much you super chat elsewhere. But sometimes it has something to do with that. If you do it so many times, it won't let you for another time. And I know for a fact that there are official daily limits, but those are like 500, I think, at
Yeah,
once.
500. Yeah, is like where you tap out.
I think 500 is like for one super chat, and then you have maybe a slightly higher amount for your daily limit or something. But I would love to know more about that. But since I usually receive very humble amounts, I didn't have to. I didn't have to check on that. But thank you again. Oh, last minute super chat, 1755. Ali Reza. It's an interesting choice in terms of the number. 1755. All right, I'll try to figure out what that is. Ali Reza says 500 is the normal daily limit in its entirety, inclusive of gifts. Okay. Nice. Just getting settled at my hotel for the night, just dropping by to show my support before I pass out. I really appreciate it. I am about to close once again. Thank you, everybody, for your support. Ali Reza, who is also a channel member, my Patreon supporter, and generous contributor with the super chats. OGBG, who did it twice tonight. JB and Neo as well. I really appreciate you all. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, this is a record. Previous record holder was, thank you. It did work. Previous record holder was JB, Jake Brooks, with 99.99, if I'm not mistaken. So I highly appreciate this. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
I don't know. I would just say, Ali, how does it feel to get dunked on by OG baby girl? You gonna let that slide? Personally, I wouldn't let that slide.
Okay, we don't want to create that sort of environment. People are feeling generous and they are being supportive. I would rather not pit anyone against each other. I love them all, independent of the particular, value attached to the contribution. At any rate, I do appreciate you all. And Alireza says, Dan, go ahead. Don't let it slide. Super chat yourself too. OGBG says, I love my Lord. Everyone, we all love the Lord. But I love you too, baby girl. Thank you so much. Alireza says, nothing wrong. He's trolling me. He's right. We're all one big group. Hey, as long as you're here, you are supporting the channel, you are creating a positive environment. I appreciate it all. Whether it's a couple of dollars or more, I always cherish it. Of course, the more, the better. This basically takes care of me for today and tomorrow without even expecting anything more. Everything that I do is a bonus here and on the next live stream. So I appreciate that a lot, OG baby girl. Thank you again for everyone in the chat. Thank you especially for OGBG, Alireza, Jake Brooks, and Neo, who have super chatted, and everyone else who has supported the channel. Please hit the like button on the way out. I think I'm going to see you on Thursday, unless I end up doing something early tomorrow. I'm going to upload a shorter video for the Wilf Hunter series, that is watches I like to find. Be on the lookout for that. I think I will release one for the public, and on Monday I will throw in another 3 for my YouTube members. Once again, if you would like to support the channel that way, and if you want to kind of sample the contents from Patreon that people are offered on a daily basis, the basic channel membership is always a very good way to start with that. Ali Reza was very generous at the beginning and gifted so many memberships, and I think they're all accounted for by now. They have all been taken. So I really appreciate that. If you do want to sign up, $4.99 I think is a decent price. You can also, in addition to all that extra content, as you can see, we have an emoji for Danny, 3 different emojis for me, all these beautiful things that Mookie was nice enough to do for me. And so many other things. So look forward to seeing more of you to sign up for memberships, and those of you who are trying to hopefully renew for next month. In either case, thank you so much. We will try to add more emojis and increase the production value a little bit more, hopefully by August. So be on the lookout for that. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. All right, signing out. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Yes, we do need an Ali emoji. I'll get to that. Yeah. Good night. Good night, Ali. Good night, OGBG. Good night, G Gadwa. And good night, everyone else. And Meech, take care, man.
Bye.